Hey guys, I'm just going to make a quick video on my bike tour that I just got back from a few days ago, going from St. Louis to Chicago. The experiences, positive and negative. And I just went on my Trek 520 bike, the non-e-bike. And I'll start with the saddle. It's a Brooks saddle, and I've got several hundred miles on it. It was semi-comfortable, but not really that comfortable. It was probably still a little bit too firm for me. I'll probably have to try to adjust it, maybe loosen it up a little bit. But it did okay, just not great. And as far as getting to St. Louis from San Antonio, I took Amtrak, and it went pretty smoothly. The downside of Amtrak was the fact that it was 24 hours and I had to ride overnight without being in a sleeper cabin. So I wouldn't recommend trying to sleep in a chair, especially if you're a light sleeper like me. Overall, Amtrak was fine during the day, but I wouldn't want to go overnight in it again. And when I got there, the first couple days were pretty good. A lot of trails going out of St. Louis out into the smaller towns. And there's some trails that go out. They're like county trails, and they go for quite a ways. But then the middle section of it, after 3.5 days, I actually had to cut my bike tour short because there were some big storms that went through. There were like 4 inches of rain, a lot of flooding and stuff. And I guess I wasn't too upset about it because after the first, I did 175 miles. And then after that, the next like 100 miles would have been mostly just access roads, and they do have a little bit of trails going in and out of little towns, but not that many. So the middle 100 probably would have been good to avoid, which was my goal. But because the rain was so heavy, I wasn't able to continue once I get closer to Chicago. So I'd like to go back sometime and do the Chicago area. I think they've got a lot of nice trails in the Chicago area going up to the waterfront. But I ended up having just to rent a car, and I just did some tourist things by car after it rained, since I couldn't really do the bike tour. And it was mostly in hotels, so I didn't bring my camping gear, which saved me about 12 pounds of gear. So I just had the 2 panniers in the back, and then I put my backpack in the back, which was great to just put random things, extra food and snacks and stuff, or my rain jacket, anything that I needed quick access to that didn't fit in the handlebar bag, fit in there. And then coming back, I guess I was glad I had the rental car because there's a lot of logistics required in terms of trying to get a box and a bike box. I had to go to a couple bike shops before I found one that had a bike box. And then I didn't have the tools to break down the bike, so they did it for me. And they were able to put it in the bike. And the main thing they did was just took the pedals off, which is easy. And then this rear Dior hanger, basically they just unscrewed right here and it came off. That way it wouldn't get damaged in transit. And then they turn the handlebars by just taking the 4 screws out here in the headset. And then this handlebar bag also had to be loosened up. And then just twisted the handlebars and deflated the tires. Took the seat out, and it fit in there just fine. TSA did open up the bike box, and I did take Southwest because they have a pretty good policy for bikes. They charged me $75 to fly back. Originally I was going to take Amtrak coming back, but as I mentioned, I didn't want to ride on Amtrak overnight anymore. It was just not my thing. And the sleeper cars are really expensive, so it was just cheaper just to fly back. And there was a direct flight from Chicago back to San Antonio, 2.5 hours. And so I was glad to be back here. Originally, I wanted to do a 2-segment bike tour, but really 1 week for me was plenty for a bike tour. I'll probably try to do another bike tour maybe next spring or something. And yeah, the other thing I learned was I'd probably take rest days. Originally I was thinking, okay, after a week I'll take a rest day. But really, I needed a rest day after like 3 or 4 days. So if I plan a bike tour in the future, I'll just plan it so I bike 3 or 4 days, take a rest day. I could do my laundry, let my muscles recuperate a little bit, and then just continue on another 3 or 4 days. And for me, that's like a perfect length of bike tour. I don't think I really enjoy the really long bike tours. So that's it. I just wanted to share my experience setting up this bike tour. And this was the first bike tour I did where I did it all by myself in terms of the planning and also the riding. And yeah, it can be time consuming to figure out like what hotels you're going to stay at, get reservations ahead of time and all that. So I mean, I guess there's trade-offs. If you're going to wing it, you don't know where you're going to sleep that night. But on the other hand, you're more flexible in terms of how far you go, or if you want to stop somewhere, you can stop as long as there's accommodations nearby. There weren't very many campgrounds along the way, so that's why I didn't bring my camping gear. And camping, it would have been harder for me because I would have had to go several miles out of the route to hit the campgrounds, and then bring food, and it just didn't make sense for me to do that on this bike tour. So yeah, that was my experience with the Route 66 bike tour from St. Louis to Chicago.